Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the comment from Nigel Farage that Brexit has failed and what his angle is in saying it. Because he famously said that he'd leave our shores if Brexit was a disaster. Clearly he's not planning on keeping that promise. So what is he up to? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So a couple of days ago, Nigel Farage appeared on the BBC. I'm sure you've seen it now. Yet again, of course, regular on there. And he had a list of Brexit woes put to him. He tried to laugh off the claim that the OBR have forecast our economy to shrink by 4% as comical, yet our economy has already shrunk by more than that in real terms since Brexit. So actually, to have our post-Brexit economy only shrink by 4%, we've got some catching up to do. But despite his attempts to offer up some feeble dismissal of the facts, he did clearly state that he didn't believe we'd benefited from Brexit. So immediately the munchkins on Twitter, who keep trying to claim that Brexit benefits exist, and there are not that many of them these days, have been abandoned by the foghorn. He immediately tried to blame the politicians. And this was always going to be the case, of course. Those responsible for the delivery of Brexit were either going to have to pretend that Brexit is marvellous, as some of them are, or that the benefits wouldn't be as immediate as hoped for, but would definitely be coming in the future, which some others are doing. But all of the Brexiteers, all of the other Brexiteers, including Farage, because they've got nothing to do with the implementation, at least not directly, could just blame the competence of those who were steering it. And there's a sort of a revolving door of this within the Conservative Party. Even it's not even just those outside the Conservative Party. The ones in cabinet right now, they're the ones going, oh no, this is the marvellous, this is the way to do it. It'll be marvellous, don't you worry. A few years' time, it'll be brilliant. And the ones who used to be in government, who were saying exactly that at the time, are now saying, oh no, it's all terrible, you're doing it wrong. But anyway, Farage can, of course, carry on just blaming everyone else for the rest of his misspent life, because he will never be in charge of any part of the process of governing Britain. Like any good grifter, he comes to town, takes your money, but has nothing to do with the product after the sale. So is this just a case of Farage making sure he is never personally blamed for the consequences of Brexit? No, I don't think so. There are a number of Brexiteers removed from the implementation who don't feel the need to keep attacking the implementation, even though if you trap them, they will nonetheless do so. This is because they are incredibly wealthy and they really don't care. Not all of them. I mean, obviously there's Tim Martin of Wetherspoons famously losing money hand over fist as a result of the Brexit he campaigned for. Rocco Forte recently saying he's now threatening to move back to Italy because Brexit's hurt his business so badly. James Dyson buggered off from the country years ago. But what Farage is doing here is working out how best to shill for pennies. He's wealthy by any sensible measure, but he's not super wealthy. And our Nigel's got expensive taste, you know. Don't be fooled by the modest surroundings when he pretends to be photographed or filmed from home. He likes the finer things in life. In fact, in the Brexit camp, when the 2016 referendum results came in, there may have been two people who were actually bitterly disappointed. Boris Johnson, clearly, because he wanted Remain to win. He only campaigned for Brexit to win over the Eurosceptics for the next leadership contest. That was it. We all know that, that's clear. He didn't want to actually deal with it. Nigel Farage would have been nervous, I think. I don't want to say disappointed, not like Johnson, because Farage really does hate the EU. So ideologically, I think he would have been happy, but didn't half threaten his finances. See, with the UK outside of the EU, his earning potential is not really what it was. His initial plan was to make a fortune on the speech circuit in America, so he'd been hanging around the orange one like a bad smell. Even interviewed him when the beleaguered ex-president visited Scotland recently. Again, it's like me hoping I win the lottery. He's really hoping that Trump becomes president again so he can have another crack at grifting a living in America. But so far, the Americangrift has fallen apart. It fell apart with COVID. When the restrictions were lifted and he was actually able to go and tour there again, the time had passed, it all fell flat. He couldn't even pack out a speech hall when the tickets were free. The American dream was over, at least for now. Back in the UK, he was hiring himself out to birthday parties. Or at least, he wasn't Nigel the Clown. He was at least making recorded wishes for cash, you know. Give me 50 quid and I'll wish you happy birthday. Now, let me share with you an email I received a while back from a company which flogs celebrity endorsements, including those of Nigel Farage. Get a load of this. Quote, "I've been loving your content on YouTube lately and think you could benefit from a celebrity shout out for your YouTube channel, which you can then share with your followers and use in promotion of your channel. I work closely with Nigel Farage and immediately thought he would be a great fit for your brand." Still laughing about that one now, it was ages ago. The price tag, if you're interested, was £2,000, or a simple endorsement was 300 quid. Essentially, Farage no longer had his MEP stipend for doing bog all because he didn't go. Bit tricky to ask Brexit supporters for cash when you've already left the EU. So Farage needed and needs and will continue to need to keep grifting in order to keep him in the style to which he's become accustomed. The MEP pension might sound nice to most of us, but that won't even pay for the butler needed to order the caviar, will it? He lost his gig on LBC because he dropped a bollock by being a little bit more racist than even they were comfortable with. He picked up another on GB News. They weren't that bothered, but they are hemorrhaging money. He's probably one of the few sources of actual views on the channel. So his job is safe while the channel exists, I think. But if the channel falls, and that must be a serious risk for any organisation that's losing money, then that's another meal ticket gone. In order to keep the money rolling in, Nigel Farage essentially has to achieve two things. First, he has to remain relevant. So he has to keep convincing people that his ideas would do what he promised if only someone would implement them, that everyone's useless except him if only they would make him Prime Minister. Second, he has to be useful to his paymasters. Whoever is funding GB News is not doing so out of simple ideology. They need the messages carried out on the station to be able to influence government policies in their favour, whether directly or indirectly. The combinations of the platforms that Farage has easy access to and the Brexit Party, now Reform UK, that he's been associated with, have allowed him to be part of a group that have influenced government decisions. But that time is coming to an end. Those funding his ventures are not paying him for services already rendered, but his usefulness in the future. And they're not going to pay him to be the only source of views on a TV channel losing money. They need him to be useful, at least in the future. You know, what does he have to influence Labour policy? Nothing. Threatening to stand Reform UK candidates doesn't faze them because it costs more Tory than Labour votes. His only chance lies in trying to push the notion that Brexit is being sabotaged by Westminster and somehow use that to bring the Conservatives back to power and make sure that the Conservatives remain pro-Brexit. Now, arguably, this would be a lot easier under a Labour government. See, he may not be able to influence their policies, but he can more credibly accuse them of betraying Brexit. It's a much tougher sell with the Conservatives because they literally delivered Brexit. It's really hard for them to say, I don't really believe in it. Some of them try that. But really, the best bet is just to accuse them of incompetence. But with Labour, he can fight a more ideological battle. That's way easier for grifting. And this will be Farage's next intended grift. He has threatened to return to politics, as if he ever went away. Whether that means he acts as chief rodeo clown for Reform UK again, or puts himself up for election so he can lose for an 8th time, I don't know. I wonder if with a Labour government he'll even try to go all Alex Jones. Maybe he'll set up his own Brexit Defence Foundation or something. That'll get the pennies rolling in. There will certainly be a distinct pivot on the Brexit narrative when Labour come to power. It'll be very different to now. The Brexiteers on the right are currently at odds with each other because some need to defend the Tory Brexit because they're invested in it, and some need to attack it as weak or insufficiently committed, whatever. But they can both unite against Labour. And we'll see a very different argument coming through as the government at that time will no longer even be pretending that we should diverge from the EU or indeed international norms. Right now, Rishi Sunak is wasting everyone's time at the Council of Europe meeting by telling them that they should ignore their own laws. I mean, none of that bollocks once the Tories are in opposition again where they belong. This will be Farage's angle. He can sense a change in the Brexit landscape coming, and he's readying himself to move on for the new grift. Because a post-Brexit Brexiteer has to stay awake if they're to somehow earn a living for campaigning for something that's already happened. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.